dear friends. My amazing husband is doing some rehanging of curtains. I've got new rods up behind me to hang art in my studio. So the next time, probably next week when I'm on live, I'll actually have things hanging on the wall. Super, super grateful. And he rehung my curtains so they look better. So you might hear some banging around in the background. So be forewarned. Excuse me, sorry about that. And welcome, welcome, welcome to Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. Obviously, I am Dr. Minette Riordan. And all month long in October, I am focusing in on Zentangle patterns using the suggestions from Inktober Tangles 2023. Hi, Tori. And a beautiful book of poetry by Mary Oliver called Devotions. I know others that are following along might be following along on paper or in different books of poetry. I think my friend Leslie was maybe doing Robert Frost that she'd found at a used bookstore. And this week I decided to focus on one poem and add different patterns to the poem because it was such a beautiful poem, appropriately titled October. So you may have already heard me sharing this poem this week. And the patterns this week have been really, really beautiful. So here's where the pages are so far: disconnected. Although I'm really loving this Acropolis ribbon over here, and there's a lot of glare to look better when I switch my screen. And walnuts and scara, some really nice botanical patterns. And I'm excited to dive in and play tonight. It is so crazy busy around here. We are hosting another in person retreat, not this coming weekend, but the next weekend. So lots of fun stuff happening in the studio. We've also launched our next mythical makeover experience called The Wizard of Oz. And in the middle of all of this, we've changed teaching platforms. So if you're looking for my online classes and programs, we are now at minette.simplero.com, Simplero, simplero.com. And so we have links to change in a variety of places. So my head is super full of details, and my mother's planning an 80th birthday party, and I have those details all in my head. All of that to say that I am so incredibly grateful. Oops, how about if I put my microphone in front of my face, Janice? That would probably help. Is that better? I'm talking away, and that may be a good reason. Does that sound better? Let me know if you can hear me now. I didn't realize that my mouthpiece was up, and sometimes I have a tendency to press on my little button accidentally, or the cats jump on it, and then you can't hear me either. Okay, awesome. Yay, much better. Thank you for letting me know. And, then you just didn't have to listen to all my rambling. You could just tune out that little bit of rambling. But welcome to Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. I am not in my PJs yet, but I cannot wait to be in my PJs and curl up on the couch to do some mindful coloring in a sacred circle, perhaps, or I have something so exciting to share. So I'm going to change my screen here. So my friends, Andrea Shebelou from A Work of Heart Studio, Ali Manning from the Handmade Book Club, and Robin Marie Smith have collaborated on a super, super fun project called the Sisterhood of the Traveling Journal. And I just got the journals. I'm the first one to see the journals all completely made. They started with Andrea painting some of the pages, then Robin Marie painted some of the pages. If you know these artists, you'll recognize their styles. And then Ali, who is like my goddess of handmade books, made all these gorgeous, gorgeous journals. And on November 17th, hi Leslie, I'm glad you're here. On November 17th, we are going to be releasing the Sisterhood of the Traveling Journal as a free collaborative offer showing how we made the books. And it's my turn to figure out something fun to do inside all of these, and then to get to send these back to Ali, Andrea, and Robin Marie. It has been an amazing collaboration. Super excited to be sharing this with everyone. This is coming in mid-November, so lots of fun stuff on the horizon. And as Tori said, I am busy, 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 busier than I like to be. I had lunch with a friend today, and which was fantastic. And it was that sense of I've taken on, more than I care to. And as I get older, I don't have the same capacity or drive to be that high achiever of my younger years when I was super, super happy saying yes to everything. And I'm usually a bit better about managing time, but sometimes things just get all conflated. Thanks, Janice. Yeah, it's a super fun project. We're excited to share. We're going to share why we did it, how we did it, and some fun ideas for how you can do it too to create your own Sisterhood of the Traveling Journal. So I am going to start today with some practice because today's pattern is a really tricky one for me. It's a little bit Celtic knotty. It's another ribbon tangle. It's really pretty. It's called ZUTTO, ZUTTO by Yuko Takamasu. And the end result is quite beautiful, but it's one of those patterns, kind of like Acropolis yesterday, that has a lot of steps. So I want to practice the step outs of this pattern with you before I add it over here to where we're going with our beautiful poem October this week by Mary Oliver. And I will share the poem again as well. But I think I want to start today with a little bit of practice of ZUTTO and see where we can get to. And if I can make it work, I'm thinking it would be cool to add a ribbon of these little hearts that we're going to draw in and out throughout the skara and the walnuts here, so that we have a nice ribbon here and we have a nice ribbon here on this side as well. I don't know if it's going to work or not because it's a tricky pattern, but what painting in your PJs is all about is just giving things a try and being willing to mess up. And so we're going to go for it. And I might mess up. So there have been a few, right, Leslie, really tricky ribbon patterns with a lot of steps in this particular version of Inktober Tangles. So I'm going to start with just a piece of paper in my journal that I've been working in. I've got my Micron 01. I also have a PN if I want to blacken some things in. I've got a smudge stick or a tortillon, as they're affectionately called. And I have a couple of pencils for shading. This one is not good for shading. That's a 2H. It's actually quite hard. So where'd my little Zentangle pencil go? So this is a softer, closest to a regular 2B, just traditional pencil. I have a couple of other things floating around on the table right now, but what I love about Zentangle is the simplicity. And this is really all we need to get us going is some nice paper and some nice tools, and these microns are definitely nice tools. You're behind, but putting in lots of practice. There is no behind, right? There is no behind. I'm doing sometimes a few patterns a day, sometimes one a day, but I think we just have to be patient with ourselves and do what we can, especially because, man, these fall colds have been kicking our butts for so many of us, and I am still not 100% over mine. Okay, so I am going to not be looking at the screen for a minute. I'm going to be looking at the step outs as we go along with this pattern. So if you have questions, you can put those in the chat and I will see the questions. So again, this pattern is called ZUTTO by Yuko Takamasu. That's a beautiful, Yuko Takamasu, beautiful lyrical name, Takamasu, it's fun to say. And this one starts with a row of hearts. And I think for my practice, I'm going to go ahead and draw a little box as if this were maybe a little Zentangle tile here, just to give ourselves a little bit of a boundary on the page. And I'm going to start right in the middle because I think it's easier, and I am going to draw a row of hearts, and I'm going to see if I can move, where can I move this light a little bit to not get so much of a shadow on my hand. It's because I'm left-handed, right? I always end up getting the extra shadow on my hand, so bear with me. So I'm going to come in, and so this is like a just kind of a almost an S curve, like it's a C with a really long bottom on them, and then we're just going to mirror that shape on the other side to get a really simple heart shape. And I don't need these hearts to be perfectly symmetrical. And then I'm going to start up here with that C shape so that I can get and make sure my hearts are touching. And I'm going to just go across my page. I'm noticing that one got a little bit higher. I do want to kind of keep them even across the top and the bottom, so I'll be a little more mindful of that. I'm going to draw this one as if it's just floating off the edge of the page there. I'm going to turn this so it's just a little bit easier to draw, because now I'm going left to right, which is a little bit more tricky. And if you see something and you think, oh, I messed up or I made a mistake, don't worry. All those mistakes disappear. The beautiful thing about Zentangle is that simple idea of just one stroke at a time. So I turned my page upside down, and I am going to fill this bottom of this row of hearts with another row of hearts. Again, making sure they touch. Might have to stretch them a little bit. But my center point, right, is here. Here is that center point from which our hearts start. So sometimes it's easier to start from the center and work our way out. So there we have the beginnings of our ribbon tangle ZUTTO. And now it's where it starts to get a little bit crazy. So we're going to see if we can figure this out together. So we're going to start by drawing an inner aura in this heart on the left-hand side of the heart, from the top to the bottom, another C curve, sort of a shallow C curve, just inside each of these. Hi, Diego. You're being very needy. Diego says he's very glad Daddy is done with the drill. They did not like the drill. So it's about halfway of the width of that leftmost hump of our heart. And we just have that inner aura all the way around. Then we're going to turn our page upside down one more time. And this one actually goes from the right to the left. So it's the opposite, from the right to the left. But it's that same C curve, about halfway from that hump to the other side of the heart. So now, rather than hearts, we're really starting to almost see some S shapes in there, right? Some S shapes in there. And I'm looking very closely at the step outs. So the lines look simple, but as you put them all together, there's a lot of moving parts. So this time, I'm going to go from the right hump over to this little space between the hearts with a crescent moon, with that half moon shape. So I'm going from the center of this hump to this little V over here with a crescent moon shape. And I'm going to do that all the way across. Kind of missed the mark there. We're going to turn it upside down and we're going to go the opposite direction, right? So we're going to go from the left hump on each of these at about that halfway mark over to the little V here, making that little crescent moon shape. Just taking your time, going slowly, remembering to breathe and not grip your pen too tight. All those instructions are reminders for me, by the way. So now all of a sudden we have the smaller hearts tucked in some other hearts. Hi Marion, hi Judy, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a crazy, crazy pattern for sure. Crazy pattern for sure. And then we're going to come in and the next step, did I do these backwards? I did not do them backwards. So we have this shape. This one is the one that always gets tricky for me. Okay, so this one we're going to go again from kind of the center of that hump in the right with a slightly curved C to parallel with this line and a line across. So we're making like a funky little rectangle in here, and I'm almost thinking it would be easier to start from the center line and draw up that way. So straight line across and then a slight C curve up to the top of that hump. Straight line across up to that hump. And it's a lot of steps, but once you get the steps down, it's not as difficult as it looks. And I'm actually, control copy, I'm going to put the link directly to the step outs for this pattern into our chat. So if you guys want to see those step outs yourselves or print them out and add them to your journal, you can. Okay, so we're going to turn it upside down one more time, and we're going to do the same thing in reverse. So we've got that little parallel line and that little sort of curved rectangle as if it's echoing or oraying that leftmost hump of the heart. I don't know what else to call it. Hump, bump. All right, we have one more step to go, and then we're going to add some embellishments to it that maybe are going to help those shapes stand out a little bit better. So I'm looking at the step outs very carefully here. So this is interesting. So we're going to go between the point of this first curved line and this line over here, and we're going to make another little crescent moon shape. And we're going to do those all the way across. So what ends up happening is it starts to look like we have this sort of wonderful woven pattern. Where we have this set of interlocking hearts. So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to start over here on the right-hand side of the page, going from where this little crescent touches the top of the heart over to the center of the next crescent. and I'm not going to finish off that edge. If I were going to finish off this edge, I would want to go ahead and come in and actually complete this whole shape here, which means I would need to have all of my humps in a row, something like that. So that is the basis of this tricky pattern called ZUTTO. And when we come back to add some embellishments, I think is where we start to really have some fun and kind of start to see some of the wavy patterns. So I'm going to use one of the patterns that she's used for some of the lines of the hearts. And on this, she did it on this line here. Interesting. So I'm going to come in and just put a little curly Q here on the inside of this line. And I'm going to do that on all of these. We're going to see if this works or not. This is where it's going to get... I'm going to remember this is just practice. This is my... I think I drew this one other time when I was first working on practicing all the patterns, and I knew this was one that would take a few different times to draw to get the hang of. And I'm making sure that I'm putting these little curved, almost like spirals, in exactly the same place on each of the hearts. So it's in the same part of the pattern on each of our row of interlocking hearts. And then I'm also going to add those along the top of the hearts to kind of give it that look of creating a little dimension. And I'll move my hand in a minute and you can be able to see what I'm doing. This will help me see where I could do a better job on the pattern as well. And then maybe, hi Georgia, maybe I also want to have that little bit of a pattern down here. So it's like I said, it's a very interesting pattern. It's a fun one to draw. The effect is pretty, and it also felt really tricky to draw. And I'm wondering if I come in and shade along those same places where I put the pattern, what happens when we add some shading. I know, no more drill. You're so happy. My husband had to go buy a drill to drill in the concrete, but I'm finally going to get to hang art in my studio. I'm so happy. And it was very, very loud. Yes, yeah. I have a problem. She loves making an appearance. You're not being helpful. Nope, I cannot draw when you're lying on my paper. She always wants to lie on my drawing arm. Don't know why. And I think when we come in and we start to add shading is when we start to see some of the really fun potential of this pattern. All right, there is an attempt to draw the Zentangle pattern, ZUTTO. I like it. It's different. I don't think this would ever be like a mac and cheese go-to tangle for me, but it's definitely one of those little bit challenging, mind bendy tangle patterns that's fun to practice. Yeah, I agree. It was really hard to get those crescents straight across the top. They're actually straighter here across the bottom. And if that one wasn't brain twisty enough, she also has a sample on her page of drawing one of these in a circle. And I'm super curious if I could figure out how to do this in the circle, because then it would really fit with my page that I'm working on really well, because I have these other gorgeous sort of botanical patterns. So rather than adding, I don't know, I'm kind of undecided. Maybe I could just do one little ribbon of those hearts here. Food for thought. Okay, I'm going to add the ribbon of ZUTTO on here, and I am going to see where we get to. Oh God, no, with this circle. I know, right? But if you click on that link to the step outs, you can see, but she doesn't have the step outs for drawing it in a circle, and it was tricky enough to draw it in a line. So I think I'm gonna keep it with the line. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more there. But before I do that, I am going to read for the second time or the third time this week this beautiful poem, October. I notice my focus is a little bit off every once in a while. I swear it has a mind of its own, so bear with me. October by Mary Oliver. There's this shape, black as the entrance to a cave. A longing wells up in its throat like a blossom as it breathes slowly. What does the world mean to you if you can't trust it to go on shining when you're not there? And there's a tree, long fallen. Once the bees flew to it like a procession of messengers and filled it with honey. I said to the chickadee, singing his heart out in the green pine tree, little dazzler, little song, little mouthful. The shape climbs up out of the curled grass. It grunts into view. There is no measure for the confidence at the bottom of its eyes. There is no telling the suppleness of its shoulders as it turns and yawns. Near the fallen tree, something, a leaf snapped loose from the branch and fluttering down, tries to pull me into its trap of attention. It pulls me into its trap of attention. And when I turn again, the bear is gone. Look, hasn't my body already felt like the body of a flower? Look, I want to love this world as though it's the last chance I'm ever going to get to be alive and know it. Sometimes in late summer, I won't touch anything. Not the flowers, not the blackberries brimming in the thickets. I won't drink from the pond. I won't name the birds or the trees. I won't whisper my own name. One morning the fox came down the hill, glittering and confident, and didn't see me. And I thought, so this is the world. I'm not in it. It is beautiful. October by Mary Oliver. All right. A lovely, mindful pause listening to the lyrical verse of Mary Oliver and a break from this crazy pattern, ZUTTO. So here's what I'm thinking is that I want to do this one in a row to start to connect the patterns on these page. I might want to extend it beyond, but I think for right now, I'm just going to stay right here and see where I can get to. I'm even really tempted to draw it in pencil, but as with all Zentangle patterns, there are no mistakes. simply one stroke at a time. So here we go, one more time with our pattern ZUTTO. So I'm starting in the center of my string here. I'm going to pretend to sort of go behind. I can already tell it's feeling a little tricky drawing on that curved line, but there aren't very many of them, which makes me happy. My other one that I did had way more hearts. Then we're going to turn our page. We're going to make the hearts on this side just a little bit smaller to fit in that space a little bit nicer. Again, kind of drawing behind the words. I'm going to go look at my step out so I don't forget any of the steps. So I'm starting on the left side and working my way to the right, starting with the left hump of the heart with that curved C shape. Even down here, imagining that curved C shape. And we're going to turn our page and go the opposite direction. This felt like the easy part, and this is where it all started to get a little bit trickier. So I'm going from the V shape to the top here, right? From the V shape all the way across to the top of my right side, right? So from the V shape between the hearts all the way across to the right hump of the heart. If I go a little bit slower, I can probably focus on getting those a little bit more even. And then we're going to turn it around and we're going to go the opposite direction. So we're going to go from the V shape to the left. From that V shape to the left. I made this tricky for myself because I'm having to do a little bit of drawing behind here, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. And then we came back to the inside with our rectangles. And our rectangles going the opposite direction. And I think it's good to try drawing this different sizes. When I'm first learning a tangle and practicing, I find that drawing it bigger is definitely helpful because I can really see where all of the patterns and pieces need to go. So the last step was this last crescent, kind of joining the top of those hearts all together there. Coming around on the bottom, I'm going to imagine there's a crescent there and there. And we're going to call that one close enough. So there we have our row of hearts, sort of joining things together. I have to be honest, it's not my favorite pattern. But I do like this idea of adding some embellishments. And tomorrow's pattern is a Zentangle classic, which is Knightsbridge. And Knightsbridge is a simple checkerboard grid pattern. So I'm wondering if I can just come in and put some Knightsbridge inside of here. Oops, I always do that. I missed a square. Got going the wrong direction up there. Sometimes it's hard to talk and tangle at the same time. Yeah, I'm still not sure I'm getting that top part right, but you know what? I will figure it out. And this time I might put some Knightsbridge in these parts. And I just can't get attached to the outcome here because so much of Inktober Tangles for me is definitely about the practice. It is about learning new patterns, experimenting, discovering what it is that I like or don't like. And if I don't love it or I don't like the way it looks on the page, I can't think, oh, I've run this whole book of poetry. This isn't going to work for me anymore. And by the time I added some of that pattern in there, I feel better about it. I feel like this is one that is still going to require some practice for sure. And I'm feeling like it would be fun to even just come draw one or maybe a couple of them as if they're behind here so we can just sort of bring this all together a little bit. But maybe I'm only going to draw part of the pattern, not that whole pattern. And what happens if we do that? So when you start to practice patterns and draw them over and over, you can start to deconstruct them and take the pieces that you like and leave the rest. So I didn't complete that whole pattern, but there's enough of it there to have it feel like it's kind of part of the whole. We'll add our little bit of Knightsbridge in here so it feels like they're just part of the same thing. And now I definitely want to add some shading to all of this to make sure that the different parts are kind of standing out as well. And do I have an eraser here somewhere? Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that string that I started with. Grab my pencil. So Scara is a great one to shade along the edges of these petal shapes, if you will, to help them look a little more rounded. And then also around the inside. And I'm really looking for how can I separate it out from that background pattern. So here I might just shade behind that walnuts pattern, which is so fun. I really, really love this walnuts pattern. And I think I want one more of these up on the page somewhere else to sort of, again, maybe bring this composition all together a little bit more. And then I'm going to come in just on the one side of these hearts. To start and give them a little dimension and see what we can create. And doing Inktober Tangles this year, I've realized, how much I fall back on the same old patterns all the time. My favorites but they're often the ones that are simplest to draw. I don't particularly enjoy grid patterns. They make my brain have to twist too much. I much prefer the more organic and botanical looking patterns. All right, a little more separation between all of them, a little more visual interest, but I still feel like what else could I do to kind of make these pop out from the line? And there's a couple of ways we could do that. We could do it with more shading, but we can also do it with some blackening and some line weight. So maybe I'm just going to come in and just add a little extra oomph to some of these lines. That is a technical term. One of my favorites right up there was smoosh. I'm just going to darken these lines up a little bit. I don't have to do it all the way around. I can just do it on this side. Yes, tipple is always awesome. That was my other thought for in here as well, would be to come and add. And there is some little tipple at the ends of the lines. You can never have too much tipple, and tipple is just an assortment of orbs of varying shapes and sizes. And tipple is one of my favorite fillers, and it often, again, just makes things feel somehow finished and complete. Great suggestion, Leslie. It definitely takes a village. So a little bit of tipple along that line in there adds a little bit of nice variation and variety. And then again, I can come in and add a little shading, a little elbow grease in that tipple in those in-between parts there. All right, so now it feels a little bit more complete. And I love the way these two pages have sort of two different looking patterns to kind of frame this beautiful, beautiful poem, October. But as I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, I want to fill the page because it's my favorite thing to do. And so, in addition to tipple, always my other most favorite pattern is muka. So I'm going to come in here with just maybe a couple of muka. Excuse me. And that already feels better. It feels like there's a little more flow up here on the page. And then maybe I'm going to come in here with another favorite, just a nice little zinger there. And some fescue. And now all of a sudden it feels like we have this great sort of, line of blooming things. Yeah, great effort. Thank you. It feels more effort than result, but it's amazing when you add some shading and some tipple and some muka, makes everything better. And I'm going to turn my page upside down. And basically I buried that ZUTTO in there, so it kind of disappeared into the overall design. And so no one would know but me that it wasn't quite perfect, whatever perfect might mean. Again, that little zinger, which is such a favorite. And some fescue, which look like these lovely long seeded grasses, which seem so appropriate for Mary Oliver's poems about fallen logs and grasses. Okay, now it feels like something something, right? It feels like this one where it's sort of flowing and filling the page in a way that feels much, much better. I'm going to come in and just shade the bowls of my muka a little bit, give them a little bit of rounding. This is the part where you could go on forever and ever. Adding and allowing this organic pattern. Yeah, I know, right? It is, I'm not a beginner and I got a little lost on that one. So definitely encourage you to check out the step outs on that one and to continue to practice, which is why I tried it in my journal first and not directly into my book. And I think what I managed to do, excuse me, was just to hide it in there a little bit. So I know it's there, but no one else might figure out that it's there. But thank you for joining me for Painting in Your PJs Live, the PM edition with day 18, which is ZUTTO. This one was a pretty decent effort, but like Marion said, it feels like, that top line. It's interesting. This one came out more even. Who knows why? This is not the only time I will draw this pattern. It feels like it needs some practice. I definitely want to give it a go doing them in the round because it's really pretty drawn in the round. And I'm not even quite sure how I would tackle that. But I hope you enjoyed this gorgeous, gorgeous poem, October by Mary Oliver, appropriate for the month of Inktober Tangles. So this one was the pattern was Skara. I think that was day 15. This was walnuts with a Z on the end, which I loved, which is day 16. This was day 17 and day 18. I haven't added my labels to the page, but I love these pages together, and I'm looking at this going for the future. I can see all of this blooming out of the edge of an Acropolis line like this one. So I can see the possibility and potential in the patterns, which is the joy and beauty of the practice and the play. Thank you for joining me. I'll be live again tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Time. That's 6 a.m. for my West Coast peeps, which I know is a little bit early, and 9 o'clock over on the West Coast or on the East Coast, and 8 o'clock for my friends in the Central time zone. So again, as always, thank you for joining me live. Thank you for watching the replay. Please do hit the like button if you enjoyed what I shared. If you're new to my channel and just watching for the first time, hit the subscribe button and that little notification bell so you'll get notified when I add new content to the channel or go live. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. Bye, everybody.